Okay, picture this. A yacht just sailing along, sails flapping a bit, engine running.
Yeah.
But there's nobody there.
Yeah, completely empty. And not just empty, but weirdly normal inside.
Like a meal set out on the table, ready to go. It sounds like something out of a movie, right?
It really does. But this was real. This is the story of the Kaz II.
Often called, Australia's modern-day Mary Celeste, a classic mystery, but happening in our time.
And that's what's so deeply unsettling about it, I think. April 2007, off the Queensland coast, 3 men just vanished.
In an age with GPS, radios, all that tech.
Exactly. How does that happen? It really makes you question things.
So in this deep dive, we're really going to try and unpack this, go beyond just the headlines about the Kaz II.
Yeah, we'll be looking at the details, the discovery, what the boat was actually like when they found it.
The crew who were missing, the investigation that followed.
And all the theories, because believe me, there are quite a few. We've looked into the reports, the inquest findings, all that available material.
Right. Our mission here is basically to sift through all that information, the facts, the speculation.
Some of it more grounded than others.
Yeah, definitely. And try to give you the clearest picture we can of why this case is still so baffling, so enduring.
Why it's this modern maritime mystery that just sticks with you.
Okay, let's start with the discovery itself. When and where?
It was April 2007. A Coast Watch plane spotted the Kaz II, a 12-meter catamaran.
And it was way out there, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. About 88 nautical miles off the Whitsundays coast. So roughly 163 kilometers, just adrift.
From the air, I suppose it just looked like any other yacht initially.
Probably, yeah. Nothing obviously wrong from a distance.
But then they got closer, and boarding parties went out. And that's when things got really strange.
That's putting it mildly. The scene they found on board was just eerie.
Tell us about that. The table?
Yeah, the table was set, cutlery, plates, everything ready for a meal. There was even a cup of coffee sitting there. Cold, obviously.
And a newspaper.
An untouched newspaper dated April 15th. Just lying there.
And crucially, the safety gear.
All the life jackets were properly stowed away. The inflatable dinghy was still tied securely to the yacht, hadn't been used.
And absolutely no sign of a struggle, no violence, nothing overturned.
Nothing. It was orderly. That's one of the most disturbing parts. It didn't look like a scene of panic or chaos.
So who was supposed to be on board?
3 men. Derek Batten, he was 56, the owner. Fairly new owner, actually.
Okay, relatively inexperienced, maybe?
Well, he was known to be meticulous, a careful planner, took safety seriously, but yeah, not a lifelong sailor of big boats.
And the other 2?
Peter Tunstead, 69, and his brother James Tunstead, 63. They were described as cautious, responsible guys, basically helping Derek out on the trip.
So not exactly a crew looking for trouble.
No, quite the opposite, it seems.
And this discovery, this empty boat in the modern era,
yeah,
it obviously caused a huge stir.
Oh, massive media frenzy. And that modern-day Mary Celeste tag stuck immediately. It just captured the public imagination.
But behind the catchy name is just this fundamental, deeply unsettling question. What actually happened to those 3 men on the Kaz II?
Let's look closer at the state of the yacht itself, because the details just add layers to the puzzle.
The engine was running, you said.
Still running when they found it. Navigation systems were on, working fine. There was even a laptop open, apparently, with navigation software running.
Which suggests whatever had happened. Found.
That's certainly one interpretation, yeah. Like they were actively sailing not long before.
But then there are contradictory clues, right? Like the sail.
Right. The main sail was found shredded, which could suggest it was left untended for a while, flapping in the wind.
And the life ring.
Ah, yes, one single life ring was missing from its holder. That's possibly the only real clue pointing towards someone potentially going overboard.
But even that raises questions. Why just one?
Exactly. If it was a man overboard situation, you might expect more activity, maybe distress calls.
And why was the engine still running if someone went over? Wouldn't they try to stop or circle back?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? It's hard to square.
And despite that shredded sail, the inside was tidy.
Remarkably so. Food still in the fridge. There was even a fishing line trailing in the water behind the boat.
Like they just paused mid-activity.
Precisely. One investigator described it memorably, didn't they?
Yeah, something like they just stepped outside for a moment expecting to return.
Chilling phrase. That captures the absolute strangeness of it, just an abrupt halt to normal life.
So let's talk about the crew and their trip. Where were they going?
They left Chute Harbor on April 15th, 2007. Their destination was Townsville, which is about 500 kilometers up the coast. A decent trip.
And Derek Batten, the owner, Meticulous, but maybe learning the ropes a bit.
Yeah, he'd recently bought the Kaz II. Sources say he was careful, had done preparations, took safety precautions. He wasn't reckless.
And the Tunstead brothers, Peter and James, were there to help him out. Cautious, responsible types.
Seems that way. So the picture is of a carefully planned trip, not some risky venture.
What about the weather when they set off?
Pretty good, actually. Light to moderate winds, clear skies, small waves. Nothing alarming reported.
So no obvious danger right at the start.
No, seems like a perfectly fine day for sailing.
And they did make contact after leaving, didn't they?
Yes, that's a key point in the timeline. Derek made a routine radio check-in with Volunteer Marine Rescue in Bowen.
When was that?
April 16th, the next day, around 6:45 in the morning. He reported they were north of a place called George Point, and everything was fine. No problems mentioned at all.
Everything normal.
Yeah.
And then silence.
Pretty much. After that 6:45 a.m. radio call on the 16th, there was no further communication heard from the Kaz II.
But the boat kept moving.
The GPS data recovered later showed it did continue moving, but the track became erratic. It looked like it was just drifting, not being steered. Suggests no one was at the helm.
And critically, no distress signals.
None whatsoever. No Mayday calls over the radio. No flares were seen by anyone. And the EPIRB wasn't activated.
Explain the EPIRB again.
It's an emergency position indicating radio beacon, vital safety gear. If a boat gets into serious trouble, it can be activated, sometimes automatically, and sends a distress signal with the boat's location straight to rescue authorities.
And it was just sitting there, unused.
Untouched. Which is a huge red flag if there was a catastrophic event or people in the water.
So the timeline is, they leave on the 15th, check in fine early on the 16th, and then sometime after that, something happens. The boat drifts, and it's finally spotted by that Coast Watch plane on April 18th.
That's right. Drifting near the Great Barrier Reef, just 3 days after they set sail, and that's when the real investigation began.
And it sounds like the authorities took it very seriously. Queensland Police, AMSA.
Oh yeah, the Australian Maritime Safety Authority. They conducted a very thorough investigation, looked into pretty much everything you could think of.
So what theories did they consider and rule out early on? Piracy.
Dismissed pretty quickly. There was just no evidence. The boat wasn't ransacked. Nothing valuable seemed to be missing. No signs of a forced boarding. Plus, that area isn't really known for piracy at all.
Okay, what about a sudden freak weather event, a rogue wave or something?
Also ruled out. As we said, the weather reports were consistently calm for that whole period. And crucially, the boat itself didn't have the kind of major damage you'd expect from being hit by a huge wave or a violent squall. The shredded sail seemed like it happened later from neglect.
Any other possibilities? Like gas leaks?
They checked that too. Took air samples from inside the Kaz II. I found nothing toxic, no dangerous gas leaks.
And the darker possibility? Something like a suicide pact.
Also considered and dismissed. There were no notes found, nothing to indicate that, no known history of mental health issues for any of them. And people who saw them before they left said they were in good spirits, looking forward to the trip.
So, scratching those off the list.
Yeah.
What solid evidence did the investigators actually have to work with?
Well, the GPS and autopilot data were key, showing that last known position from the radio call and then the erratic drifting afterwards. The autopilot was engaged, but clearly wasn't keeping a course.
And the shredded sail points to the boat being untended for some time.
Likely, yes, probably damaged after the crew were already gone.
And that CCTV footage.
Right, the last image captured on board. It was timed at 10:05 a.m. on April 15th, the day they left. It showed Peter Tunstead just casually fishing off the back, relaxed, absolutely no hint of trouble.
Just hours before. Something went terribly wrong.
Exactly. And the ship's logs, they just stopped after that first day, April 15th. No entries after that, again, suggesting a sudden interruption.
And the overall condition. Pristine inside, safety gear untouched.
All pointing away from struggle, away from panic, towards something sudden, unforeseen, and all happening in calm seas. It's a real head-scratcher.
So with all this contradictory evidence, what are the main theories people talk about? And what's wrong with them?
Well, the official conclusion, or at least the leading theory from the inquest, was accidental overboard.
How would that have happened with all three?
The idea put forward was maybe one got into trouble, perhaps with a fishing line or trying to free something, fell in. Then the second person went to help, maybe fell in too.
And then the third, also trying to rescue.
That's the scenario. Perhaps trying to maneuver the boat or throw the life ring, the missing one, and also ending up in the water.
But the flaws there are pretty big, aren't they?
Huge! Why no Mayday call? If even one person was left on board for a short time, you'd expect some attempt. Why weren't life jackets grabbed? Why leave the engine running? It feels incomplete.
Okay, what about foul play? Someone else involved.
Again, the lack of evidence is the problem. No foreign DNA found on board. No signs of a struggle, as we said. Nothing stolen. The boat was in perfect order, really. It just doesn't look like an attack or a hijacking scene. Or even a mutiny between them. No indication of conflict.
And the weather theory we've covered that just doesn't fit the data or the boat's condition.
Right. Calm seas. Minor damage to the sail, likely after the event. No signs of being overwhelmed by weather.
Which leaves the more out there stuff. The Mary Celeste parallels bring out the wilder ideas, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. You hear talk of paranormal activity, alien abduction, time anomalies, secret government operations, all that kind of speculation.
Fun for mystery lovers, but
zero evidence. Absolutely nothing concrete to support any of those more imaginative theories. Just grasping at straws because the real explanation is missing.
So this all led to a formal coronial inquest in 2008. What did the coroner officially conclude?
The official finding was that the 3 men likely died from accidental drowning.
And the specific hypothesis?
The coroner suggested a sequence of events, possibly starting with a problem with one of the sails, maybe getting tangled, perhaps while trying to fix that, maybe compounded by an anchor dragging or something getting caught. 1 man fell in.
And the others followed, trying to help.
That was the coroner's proposed scenario, yes, leading to all 3 ending up in the water without managing to get back aboard or raise the alarm.
But that conclusion wasn't universally accepted, was it?
No, it faced a lot of criticism. Experts and the public pointed out the same issues we've discussed: the lack of distress signals, the unused safety gear. It felt unsatisfactory to many.
Someone called it a theory of elimination.
Yes, exactly, meaning it wasn't based on strong positive evidence showing that sequence happened, but rather it was the least implausible option left after ruling other things out. It didn't fully convince everyone.
So what's the legacy of all this, the aftermath?
Well, first and foremost, for the families of Derek Batten and Peter and James Tunstead, it's just this unending uncertainty and lack of closure. Just imagine. One relative called it an unbearable strangeness, which really hits home.
Must be incredibly difficult.
Absolutely. And in the wider maritime world, it definitely served as a wake-up call, a renewed focus on safety procedures.
Like wearing life jackets more consistently.
Yes, emphasizing wearing them, not just having them accessible. Also, better emergency training, more reliable tracking systems like AIs becoming more common. Lessons learned, hopefully.
But the Kaz II itself remains this symbol, doesn't it? A truly haunting modern mystery.
It does. Because we just don't have that clear explanation. The scene on the boat, so normal yet so wrong, is just incredibly eerie.
And that central question just hangs there. What really happened?
It never goes away.
So let's just quickly pull those key facts together again for everyone. You've got calm seas.
A crew who seemed capable, if not vastly experienced for one of them.
The boat found totally intact, engine running.
Absolutely no distress calls, no emergency beacons activated.
And 3 men just gone. Vanished.
That contrast, the normality of the scene versus the totality of the disappearance, that's what makes it so chilling.
And maybe that's why it fascinates us so much. The lack of answers, the official explanation feeling thin.
I think so. Humans crave narrative. We want closure. An unresolved mystery like this is inherently unsettling. It taps into that old fear of the unknown, the ghost ship archetype.
Even knowing the boat itself was eventually, dismantled and sold? That doesn't solve anything.
No, the physical boat is gone, but the mystery surrounding what happened aboard it is as strong as ever. It's still out there, metaphorically speaking.
Which brings us to a final thought, maybe for you listening. Is it precisely that lack of a solid answer that makes the Kaz II so compelling?
Does this mystery tell us something fundamental about, the limits of what we can know, especially when faced with the power and indifference of the sea?
Even with all our modern technology, perhaps there are still things that can happen out there that just defy easy explanation. Events that leave no trace but absence.
It certainly makes you think about assumptions we make regarding safety and control on the water. The ocean's vastness can still, apparently, swallow lives and leave us completely baffled.
A truly perplexing case, and one that likely won't be forgotten anytime soon. Thanks for listening to Paskvan Podcasts. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel.